Welcome back to the Berg podcast. Thanks for joining us today. With me today is Ford.
Hey, how's it going?
And Dan's back.
Hey, everybody.
And today we are talking about the book. So we're going to go to the next section after taking a brief hiatus last week while Dan was traveling with his family.
Well, actually, speaking of that, a programming note for people that might have listened before the end of the weekend.
Yes, thank you.
They might not have heard the intermission episode.
They may have heard a duplication of the episode from 2 weeks ago. Yeah,
we had a technical difficulty.
Little technical difficulty. Sometime over the weekend, I got a couple messages. Ford got a couple messages, and we had uploaded the wrong audio file. It was corrected, I think, by Sunday. So
if you want to go back and listen to that episode, the interim episode,
the episode that was not about the book,
yes,
was corrected.
Did you have to put up one of the little old TV screen things with like the multiple colors and it said like technical difficulties?
I didn't do that, but I should have.
I mean, but how do you do that through without a screen? You know, that's kind of a thing.
When the YouTube,
just make that emergency
when the
noise.
YouTube version of the episode posts, we'll have it like. But yes, after a brief book hiatus, we are back on the book, and this week we're talking about the next section, chapter 6 or something of that nature. And
the sections of the book are confusing because I said before he said step 3. I said, no, it's step 2. And then I looked, it was step 2, but it was also, it was like the third step 2.
It was like pieces of the step 2. It's like 2B,
something.
2C. I don't know.
Nonetheless, Brian, the title is
Choose Freedom.
Choose
freedom. Yeah. And
America.
Yeah. That's not a political statement.
Yeah, we're not making a political statement.
Take it as you like, but
though I would generally choose freedom.
Choose freedom. Yeah.
I don't even really need to know what the other choice is.
Yeah.
Freedom's what I'm going with.
Captivity or freedom, I guess. Yeah.
I'm going freedom.
Yeah. I got you. Same. I get it.
It's funny we say that. And then as we're going to talk about in this chapter, the majority of people choose actually captivity.
Yeah, I think even without understanding or acknowledging it.
Yeah, it's not really a choice, but you back your way into it.
Yeah, exactly. So Choose Freedom. Choose Freedom is a lot about financial freedom, right? And again, the book really like digs its heels into the personal side of things here in this chapter, in this section, which again, like I remember, but did not strike me as it being a personal message the last time we read this for whatever reason, even though it very clearly is. And leans heavily into like things that actually we talk about pretty regularly when it comes to finances and security and financial freedom, right? So
it is interesting too, because there was a couple things in there I struck that, like, again, we always talk about, did it come from the book or did we talk about it? Like the whole thing with the college choices and that kind of thing was like, we've talked about that multiple times, about the cost of it, working backwards, some of those things.
Yeah.
The other part of just, living below your means or within your means, of, all those kind of things. Which
knowing what the means are,
yes.
I guess. Yeah. Right. Or
figuring out how much you need to retire, they want to call it. I know a lot of people don't want to like look at that or think about that, but there's kind of an interesting play on that as well. As he goes through that piece, and it's kind of really interesting that the book does vacillate back and forth between like business principles and personal principles. And I think that really goes to the work-life integration piece of that. It's all tied together. There is no like wall
separation
in between. It's all just one big.
It's just your life.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I like drew a lot of correlations to some of the things that Dave Ramsey says. And there is a line inside the chapter where he talks about Financial Peace University, or he at least references Financial Peace University, which I thought was interesting. He didn't necessarily want to give Ramsey credit or
bring him up.
or say he was using the
copyright anything.
Yeah, the every dollar plan or something like that. But a lot of correlation, obviously, to the idea that it's certainly personally and definitely correlating to like business expenditures and debt structuring is making sure that like you do as much debt free basically as you can, right? So your debt creates like, servitude, You
slave to the lender.
Yeah, you don't own something and you're constantly paying for it, then you're at the mercy of having that obligation, right? You can't choose how you're spending your finances.
Well, and it's
in that regard.
It's so easy to talk about it, right? Like it's a lot of the parts of this book tell you what are really very obvious things, right? Like, to focus on things or the choose freedom, like but it's things that are easy to say and hard to do, especially given whether it be the work environment or the personal environment, right? Regardless, it's easy to say, like, I think everyone would say they wish they had less or no debt, like, yes, I wish I could do that, and it's, lately with the girls, I'm really, Dawn Staley has some amazing quotes, the South Carolina women's basketball coach.
TU.
Yeah. And that's one of them, one of the ones she has is, and I'm going to mess it up, but it's something to the effect of, if you don't sacrifice for what you want will be sacrificed. Right. And so this idea that when you say, like, I wish I could do that. Well, how much do you wish it? Like, how much do you want to do that thing? Like, I wish I was debt free. Well, you might wish that you had a brand new F-250 or 2,500 more than you wish you were debt free. And then you made a decision. You don't want to have debt, but you have elected to have debt, and whether that be with mortgages or car payments, which are varying degrees of okay debt, right? Like, in other words, if you talk a house, in theory, it has more value. It would be great if you didn't have a mortgage, but if you have a mortgage, and as long as you're not upside down, in theory, you're investing in something that will someday pay returns to someone. Yeah. A car, to a lesser degree, you need the car, but when you start to get to credit card debt and I think it was in this chapter that they talked about, and I've blended, I think, a bunch of different things, but you can't use debt to pay for things that are gone before the debt is gone. Like, if you want to try and think of, like, a really simple way to look at it, like
a meal,
right? Like, you can, if you can't afford to buy dinner at a restaurant, then you shouldn't put it on credit, right? Because you're also not going to have the money to pay for it in 20 something days when it comes due. And if it sits there, all of a sudden that meal that cost you $20 might now cost you $100, and then you repeat that, and all of a sudden you're in servitude, right? Yeah.
Well, I think the neat part he did mention in here a little bit, that was kind of one thing, the debt free, it's very, in today's world, a lofty goal. It's not something that everybody can do.
Sure. Yeah.
Wants to do or gets there. But he did explain how, if you are on the other side of it, if you are in debt, how to get out of it, right? So it's not just like, well, you got to start at zero. Like, you can be on the negative side of the scale and work your way back to that point. So it's not like, oh, I'm not there, so I got to just basically ignore this. It was more of like, okay, that is the target that's the target point. But if you're not there, there is an ability to get that path to get where you're trying to go, and it's not an immediate thing. I mean, that's a simple equation.
Yeah, for sure. And it just takes being intentional, usually, right? Or, like you said, sacrificing to accomplish that goal instead of something else. It is an interesting conversation. He talked a lot about the agreements he made with his kids, the contracts he made with his kids in regards to college education. Like, he was going to help them by paying for their education, and they in return had to do a certain set of things, right? And I thought that was an interesting way to look at it. I've never made contracts with my kids in regards to helping them pay for something or things of that nature, but we've had lots of conversations with our kids about the value of money. And I think something you said a few minutes ago, Ford, I think that conversation at a personal level, especially with my own children, has become more difficult because of the social media world that they live in specifically. I don't really do a lot with social media. I don't really subscribe to, I don't really follow people and stuff like that. But I think as young people, they're so immersed in it. And so that's what makes social media interesting most of the time. It's the perfect looking thing, the next new brand, style, whatever it is. And I think that that's like the quickest way to sort of get wrapped up in some of this stuff is if you think like the one you have isn't good enough and you can't afford the next one, but you finance it, you borrow for it or whatever. That's like a really fast way to get wrapped up in a snowball here where the credit starts to consume.
So you like, if we stay there for a second, the key to social media is cell phones, right? You have to have without the cell phone, social media doesn't work because you'd have to be at your computer. It just becomes a problem. Social media, cell phone. And nobody's done a better job of it than cell phones. And in combination, I'm not singling out Apple or Samsung, though Apple has done a better job. And I have Samsung, but Apple's done a better job. But Apple and Verizon or AT&T, they have all gotten together and they may have actually, like, I debate whether they may have out credit card the credit card companies. Like, in other words, the credit card companies were sharp with everything they did with, zero balance transfers and all these things to attempt to aggregate all your debt so that you can get it on there. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, I feel better about this. And then 25 years later, you still have debt, and then sort of colleges figured it out with all the credit, with all the school loans. And they were like, we could have these people in debt for 50 years. Like, they could pay us interest for the rest of our lives. The people, if you make it a person, for me to be in a position where I'm going to lend you money, I'm not 20, you know what I mean? Unless I was financially gifted to start with. So you have like this middle-aged group that was like, we'll figure out ways to give people money and then they'll pay us for the rest of our lives. But the credit card or the phone companies are ingenious. I mean, first they turn over the phone every year with mild changes that they make you want through social media and their practices. But then they give you the phone for free, right? You can have this $1,000 phone for free. All you got to do is just pay us for
18 months.
For 18 months or 3 years, whatever it is.
36 months,
36 months, whatever it is.
18 months anymore.
And you don't even know, and the funny part is the world is set up to do it to you. Like that's what I really want people to get from this is choosing freedom is easy. It is hard in this environment. If you lived in a cabin that ran on a heater that you put wood in to burn and you cooked food over, you wouldn't have any, you could choose freedom every day. It would just happen.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. But in the world we live in, that's not possible. I mean, you get on the turnpike now, you don't even have a choice. You cannot pay the tolls anymore. Yeah. Like the tolls will be billed to you. And if you'd like to pay 50% more, you can, or you can just get an Easy Pass. Now, there's no credit on the Easy Pass, but also how much is the toll? Like I used to know to go to the shore from my house, it was going to cost me $1.35. Now I lived much closer and I'm old.
Sure.
But, and then they raised it to 50 cents and then 75. And at some point it became like $1.75. You could pay in quarters. Who has $1.75 in quarters?
We used to walk around with having, not to jump off, but like in what used to be an ashtray back in the day in cars, which people don't even know what that is.
Which change.
Yes. It was always quarters because tolls, right? I mean, you always kept change in your vehicle because the toll.
Right? But you think about it, they have
friction. It's all reduction of friction.
We have like demonetized everything in an attempt to not make you realize how much it's monetized. Sure. And then you've paid for everything and you don't even realize it.
Well, you haven't even paid for it.
You haven't paid for it. It has been in theory paid for, and then you are indebted to someone that you don't even know.
Right. Yeah. Somebody else owns it.
Yeah.
And therefore, like you are being owned by them until you've satisfied.
And even like in a funny personal way, like Erin uses Venmo a fair amount. She actively tries to sell everything. Like as soon as the girls are out of a pair of shoes, if Nora doesn't fit in them, they're sold. And so the other day we had a function that we were going to go to for a fundraiser, or we are going to go to, and she had to send money for the tickets. And she was like, well, I'll just do it with my Venmo. And I was like, what? How do you have money in Venmo? And she had just transferred money for something else. And I was like, she could have more money in the Venmo than I have in the bank. You know what I mean? Like, where is all this money? But it's the same demonetization thing where I don't know how the money came or went in the Venmo. I'm not watching it, and it's all that same thing. If you can separate people from their money in a physical friction sort of way, it gets easier to put people into debt. And the clearest example I have is something that we're very fortunate with Berg, that Ford at Christmas historically has given people a gift tied to how many years you've been here. And he usually pays it in cash. It is paid in cash. And that cash lasts me a long time because I will spend $100 over and over and over again. Like I could go to dinner, I could go to lunch, I could buy the girls new cleats that would cost several hundred. Like I could spend it 100 different ways, but you want me to spend my actual hundreds? That's very different. This has to be something I actually like really want. Like
There's a whole like psychology
spending
with the
cash.
debit card.
Yes.
And like, because there's no transfer of value.
There's no transfer of value.
You hand them something, but they hand it back to you.
Yep.
Right. So you never gave up anything. I mean, you clearly gave up something,
But you don't.
but mentally you don't let go of it the way
Yep.
cash transactions work.
Yep.
So,
And I'm glad you went there, because
Yeah.
that's where I was headed. Is like that's part of this.
Well, like, so
Like
my girl's got a little checkout stand.
like a little cashier's
thing?
like, yeah.
It has a credit card slot on it.
Yes.
Mm.
Like,
my
did
girls
it-
did as well. So
Did
my
it come
10 years
with
ago,
coins and dollars, or
it
just
did
a
actually
credit
come with a
card
couple
slot?
coins, but it had a credit card thing. It actually had the little scanner. I mean, basically, like, I mean, if you get deep into this, which is way above our
But it
time
is.
and our
They're
interests,
conditioning.
like, they're working this process from
Oh yeah.
a point to
They are.
infinity. And the thing is that really, you know, getting back to it, but like, you know, the freedom thing, you know, sounds like a big word, you know, probably imagining eagles flying and this whole deal. But like, we've had team members in the past that have had to leave us, even though they enjoyed being part of our team. They enjoyed the culture that we have because of their financial situation. Right. And I mean, if that is not the ultimate, where like you can't even stay at a job that you enjoy,
Right.
because there is some form of someone else is telling you what you have to do.
And the opposite. We've had the opposite true. We've had people that we've made offers to satisfy their need. You know, they came to us and they said, "Hey, here's how much I'm making." And we said, "Well, you know, you'd be a valued member of our team. We'd like to make you an offer." Something most of the time, marginally more than that, in excess of that. And because they took like a loan out from their employer, or they borrowed against their 401k and couldn't repay it, or things like that. We've
they
had
physically
that.
couldn't leave.
They couldn't leave because they were indebted to that organization still.
Yeah.
And
You don't think about it. You know,
right,
and that's
in the moment.
And that is the nature. That's why when we said, you know, in the beginning, when you said, what is the opposite of freedom, right?
Mm.
It's not so simple an answer, because it's not that you're making the choice. It's that you're living within the framework of what the world has become.
Mm.
And all of a sudden you don't realize the cage that you built around yourself, and you are no longer free. And then you know it. And it's at that point that the book, whether it be Ramsey or whether it be, you know, this portion of All at Once, where it looks at it and it says, like, there is a way out. You just have to be intentional, and you have to do it on purpose, and you have to make decisions. And that's the key, right? Because in the core of this is that, like, build a fortress, you know, balance sheet. There's all different clever ways that they've come up with to describe it. But at the end of the day, you know, I think Ramsey does a really good job of it, where he describes, like, you have to be able to survive. Something goes wrong. You know what I mean? Like, appliances aren't made like they used to be. You know what I mean? You buy a fridge, you will buy another fridge within 7 years, right?
Oh, yeah.
And a fridge is you know, and
Not what they used to cost.
It's not what it used to cost. Like, you know what I mean? Depending on what you want and what you get, you can pay a lot of money for a fridge, but you're not getting one for less than, you know, what, $1,000 now, right? I mean, you're just not going to do it. And so your fridge breaks. You don't have any choice. You have to keep your food cold in the world we live in. You have to. So you got to buy a fridge. Do you or don't you have enough money in the bank to go buy a fridge and still pay your electric bill? Like, if you don't, then you're not free. And realizing that is depressing.
Yeah.
But if you don't realize it, it might be more depressing, because when you realize it's going to be a real deep hole.
But the other thing is, too, that I think that causes all this with the social media stuff you were talking about and all the different things, is there's no long-term, long-range planning. That has really kind of been voided, shall we say, right? I mean, like we talk about, you know, Ramsey always used that thing that the teachers are the third most millionaires, but they do a teaching plan, they stick to the same thing, and they do it for a long period of time. Yeah. And I think that we've all just been conditioned to, I mean, we've talked about before, I can't watch a full baseball game anymore. I'll just watch the highlights. Like, or we're all in, I mean, shoot, it used to be like, we used to say like in 5-minute clips, and now like ads are 5 seconds long. Like, I mean, that's all the time. But I mean, like, everything is just so instantaneous, and there isn't that long view of what the end goal was trying to be.
Yeah. And like along those conditioning lines, I was thinking about it as you guys were both talking. Like, most of the things that you're watching are conditioning to tell you that you deserve something, right? Like, you deserve a better car. You deserve the newer phone. And that's, I think, like the part of that conditioning, that part of that mentality is like, you deserve it, and it's really easy to do it, and for only
$9.99 a month for the next 72 months.
Yeah, like you can have it. And so I like, it's like that combination of factors is like, you work hard, you've put your time in, you deserve it. We'll make it easy for you. Small payments you can afford forever, right? And it's. But
the thing wears out before,
right.
Like that's if there's something simple, it's think about the.
Well, just go back to Christmas. Payment. Like literally go back to Christmas, right?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody wants to get their loved ones something interesting.
Sure.
By this time of the year, 50% of those items are either no longer functioning or no longer used.
Mm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So you open up, you get the satisfaction of the person being excited about that item, and it moves on.
Yeah.
So that is really an interesting kind of tie to how, and I think the thing with all this is that people also have the mentality is that depending on what your pay is, it makes a difference, but it really doesn't.
Yeah.
You could be making $8 an hour.
Yeah.
Yes, you might not have access to certain things. You could be making $80 an hour. You can be making $800 an hour. It really doesn't make a difference. It's not like, it's easier for that group of people or this group of people or this type of worker.
The expectation is just to buy more expensive things.
Yes. Right. Yeah, I like that.
And the situation remains the same.
In the book, right? I thought he did. I mean, he said, and he used the number from 2014, right? So he said in 2014, like the average American said like $160,000 in family income would like
make them happy,
satisfy them, make them happy. Right. And then he did the math, 130, 160.
He did put some extra on. Yeah.
For savings and for giving. And I was even thinking in my head, I was like, man, $160,000. That's salty. That's a big paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And, like, and then like to go through his math and be like, all right, well, no more than 20% on housing and buy your car in cash, no credit card debt. And I was like, man, like that probably was even like a pretty lofty, and that was 9 years ago or 11 years ago. Right. So it's like, yeah.
Well, we talk about it all the time. When I was in school, we always talked about, you always thought if you made $100,000 that like, it wasn't about being happy, but you just thought you had made it.
You'd be okay. Right. You'd be,
And that's one of the things that's happened in the last couple of years with the inflation and stuff is that people have gotten pay raises, but the reality is that the cost of everything has gone up with it. So there's no delta.
Yeah.
Like
I think probably even more so, right?
Well, I think there's actually an inverse reaction.
Many things have gone up more.
Right.
Well, and the cost of key things. So like CPI went up.
Eggs.
But yes, that's where I was going to go. Like the things you need to buy have gone up, but the things that you pay attention to, they've almost like price control. Yeah. They have controlled the price of certain things that you were looking for gas. Right. You remember what happened when it went from 89 cents to $2 and from $2 to $4, people almost like rioted.
Yeah.
But they kept gas the same basically. And then all of a sudden the eggs you have to buy are 7 times more. Like it doesn't, because you weren't paying attention to that. And what are you going to do? You got to buy them. But I feel like I take this forward and I go backwards from that. Like when you take that 160 number, 160, that's a lot of money for an individual to make.
Even for a family. I mean,
well, honestly, that's where they weren't basing it on an individual. They were basing it on a family because they want both people working. About the best way to keep people in captivity is to have both people working because now your kids are in captivity. You know what I mean? Like the reality is if both people have to work, you have to have your kids in daycare. Daycare is expensive.
Yeah.
And has to be paid for right now. It's a right now cost. I mean, I guess you could put it on a credit card, maybe. That's a horrendous idea.
Can you put it on the Klarna? Like
I don't know what you could do, but my point is,
easy payments.
If when you take his breakdown, you say, I got to pay for house, I got to pay for this. Well, if daycare is 20% of your income and housing's 20%, all of a sudden you're out of income and you haven't bought groceries yet.
Right. Yeah.
So now the groceries are on credit.
Yeah.
Like in other words, the first step to getting people into this situation is to have it that you increase the cost that they cannot avoid.
Right.
Yeah. You can't avoid the cost to get to work. It can be
and then you normalize it.
And then you normalize it.
Right. So we've got I would say relatively old cell phones, like, and not old, like not functioning, but
You don't have the newest camera with the gigabyte hard drive. Or
right.
whatever
Like
they're called.
my cell phone's old enough that like I can't plug in to the bottom of it.
He
It
still has a
doesn't-
lightning charger.
It doesn't work. So I got like a $20 magnetic charger so that I didn't need to buy $1,000 cell phone. So I could
It
keep.
wasn't $1,000. It was free.
It
Did
would've
you
been-
get the memo?
Yeah.
It was free, $40 a month.
But people were like, so in my car sometimes I have people riding with me. I like got to get my magnet phone charger out.
It's very much in my line of vision when I drive your truck because I'm not tall enough.
Yeah. And I was
I
like,
can't buy my way out of that though.
And people were like, well, why don't you just upgrade your cell phone? I'm like, well, this one still works. I just can't charge it the same way. And that's not a big deal, right? And they're like, well, yeah, but they'll just add it to your bill. And I'm like, but I don't want to finance my cell phone. Like, I don't want to borrow. Like it's become very normal to do that. Like that's, you walk into the store, you want to buy a new cell phone. They're like, cool. It'll only cost you X number of dollars per month. And that includes the phone. But like, you look at the bill, you're paying $35 a month just for the use of the thing.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think 15, 20 years ago, I forget when it was, but there was like that whole joke. But when you go to a car dealership, they don't ask you how much you can afford. They ask you how much you can afford a month.
yeah, right.
Because like they've gotten rid of like,
Yeah,
this
they're
is
just
this is not a $60,000 vehicle.
Right.
This is
It's
$600 a month for 12 years
Right.
or whatever the scenario. You know what I mean? Like the car's not
Yeah.
even still be running at that
Yeah.
point.
No.
But they've transitioned
The
that.
debt rollover.
Well,
like,
and then they roll
Oh,
over
yeah.
the debt.
yeah. Oh, we'll just take what
You're
you
on-
currently owe still, upside down equity on your vehicle,
Yeah.
and just
You
Upside
buy
down-
your
add it to
fifth car.
Upside down equity.
and
That's
have
Holy
like
moly.
$200,000 in debt.
That's
know?
truth adjacent.
$200,000 on a Ford Explorer.
Yeah.
Like, and yeah,
Yeah. And you know what? And I think about it. And one of the things I think that makes, there's a lot of things about my Mustang that make it like valuable to me. Like, valuable is the right word to me. But one of the things that's the most is I was 19, I think, when that car got purchased. And I don't know if I've said the story here, but basically my grandmom left money to my mom and whatever. And so my mom bought this car with the money and I got to drive the car. It was going to be, mine, her car, but my car that I could drive. And I watched her walk in with a bag full of money. Like she did not finance it. She did not write a check. She said, "What's the best deal? You'll give me cash." And the car was $25,000 and change, right? Going back to 1994. And she walked into Rice and Holman in Mount Laurel with $25,000 in cash in a bag.
Yeah.
And sat down. And it reminds me, we know people like that still to this day, but it's not as common anymore. But I think that creates more value. Like I watched her give away more money than I had ever seen to get this thing. So I very clearly understood the value of it. I mean, it wasn't the same as a payment.
Yeah.
It was a lot of cash.
Yeah.
And it was just, and they like counted it, they're like, cause they have to count it. They can't like take you, yeah, that's the right amount. So like I sat there at a desk with my mom as they counted out 20, whatever, less than 30, more than $25,000 in cash to the penny, and so like 25 years later, whatever, 30 years later, I haven't forgotten that. Like I remember sitting there and like, that's a outlandish amount of money to hand over to somebody. But,
I think that is, we've tied back to that. But, the interesting thing is we all make the choices to get ourselves into captivity or not, or whatever term we want it is. But what are we teaching the next generation? Like his ledger idea for the kids. I thought that was kind of interesting, just a way to write it down, whatever the scenario is. But like, that is really, you have your choice to do what you want to do, right or wrong or indifferent, or just that's your life's thing. But it's also about like, we're showing them, more is caught than taught, right? Or whatever the scenario is. So like, how are they seeing
that's a good line for
things happen? And that, so even if you don't personally have a problem with how your life is, would you want someone else to have that same life that you're responsible for?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And I was saying like that is like, that's interesting. The caught then taught like mentality. I like that. I don't know if I've ever heard that before. But like that is, I think, part of one of the hardest like things to transfer. Right, is like I think in every parent to child relationship, like they won't learn your lessons, right? You can't, in many ways, tell your kids about the mistakes you've made and have them be like, cool, I'm not going to do that. Like they're going to do it. And we've had plenty of experiences like that. But one of the things that I think relative to this is, I think showing our kids the difference between how we handled our finances when we were young and naive and thought that we were going to every year make more money and things were going to cost the same for the rest of our lives and like stuff like, like silly things. And now like how, like our family did, Allie and I did Financial Peace, and we went through some of the Every Dollar program, and doing it together was difficult. And he talks about that in the book, not about Every Dollar, but about the budgeting process with your spouse. Doing it together was difficult because, that's where you really figure out where you align on things in regards to what's the right amount to spend on things. And that was on both sides of the conversation, but like showing that process kind of to our kids and then why we've decided to not have the newest cell phones, to not buy new cars, to not that I think is sort of that, like what you kind of just mentioned there, the more caught than taught.
Well, I mean,
it's hard.
We all grew up probably with, our vehicles when we grew up were our titles, which means that they were, reconstructed vehicles, right? I mean, that's what we grew up with. Like, it's amazing how in a generation, I'm not going to go my soapbox here because we want to wrap this up at some point, but like the sports thing that's happened, like there used to be weddings, right?
Guilty.
There used to be weddings. So like, well, you have to give your kids the best or whatever, or the education piece was always the best, but it's trickled down
Guilty
to,
again.
It's trickled down to so multiple levels of that whole, like, well, they have to have it. Mm-hmm. And it's like, man, we grew up, we joke about it now. Well, two things I joke about. One, the water bottles, like, man, go grab a hose. That's how we got it. And then the second thing is, like, I was telling one of the girls the other day, I was like, at one point I had one toy, like, not because, like, it was probably my favorite toy. We didn't take all the toys somewhere you went. It was just, this was the toy. Like, You didn't get 32 options of what you were going to. And then I wonder about, like, okay, we're giving them different options to make them more have like ADHD because they don't stick to anything because they can just hop from one thing to the next,
Too much stimulus.
Yeah. And so it's interesting because they're so young to, like, you try and think about those things. But yeah, I think that really it is about, the example that you are putting out to the people around you more than what is.
And it's better to be, in my mind, you don't have to win, right? Like, you don't have to achieve the ultimate goal. An effort is still valuable in that, in the whole captivity piece and in the caught versus taught, when I was away, we were skiing and I could have never afforded to ski, and be very clear, where I grew up was in Jersey, and you'd think no hills, but there was one ski hill that was 1 mile from my house. It was this little hill. Now Trump has a golf course there. I think he sold it. It was his public golf course. I think he sold it. But you could walk to it. I didn't ski. I think it was like $5 for a season pass. My parents was like, it was a hard no. It wasn't even ever considered, not even really discussed. So my girls clearly are better in a more fortunate position. They get to go skiing. But I did not buy one thing from the resort in terms of food or anything else. Like, we had all the food that we were going to eat. You know what I mean? And so that's a piece, right? You show them, like, just because you go do this thing doesn't mean you have to
do all the accoutrements.
Like, what are we here for? You know what I mean?
Sure.
That's what I always say to the girls when we do stuff like soccer would be the same thing. Like, all the things that I'm guilty of spending my money on, electing to live this way. I'm that way. We're at a soccer tournament. And you're not getting food from the food truck. Like, you're not getting any of the snacks. You're not getting a sweatshirt unless you win the tournament. Like, that's my rule. You win, I'll buy a sweatshirt because now you've worked and you achieved something, fine. But I try and create value to understand that you can't just always have everything while they have so much more than I have. But I do it at the risk of running that line where, on the border of freedom and captivity, and saying I want to make it to freedom. But exactly how I started. I don't want it more than I want them to be able to go to the school that I would like them to go to, or play for, the level of travel that I would like them to play. I don't want it that much, right? So I'm willing to, like, walk that line. And what you have to decide, and I think this is really what the book starts to get you at, is what pieces are you willing to look at and say, here's where I'm going to control it. so that I can live within my means. And then whatever that means, it means, whether it means you don't have a new car, or maybe you have one car between you, or, any of these things. And if you're fortunate enough, that's where you get to make the decisions.
Sure.
But a lot of people have to make the decisions at the grocery store,
right,
at where they rent an apartment. You know what I mean? And that's where it gets hard. So it's easy to stand here from where I'm fortunate enough to be now and say, you want to strive for freedom. It's a lot harder to do when you're staring down the barrel of your kids not being able to have a dinner that night. Yeah. And that's the scary part.
The interesting thing too, I think, like along those lines is like, there's never a bad time to start, no matter where you're at. Right. But also there is no, like, I made it, unless you get to the spot that you established that, like, for the rest of your life, if you didn't have to work another day, then you're good. Like, in his example, he came up with a number like $3.2 million in the bank, cash money, right? Like, that was his, and everyone's number is different.
Yep.
And that was a number even from, scarily enough,
from
11 years ago. Yeah.
I mean, that number, just based on inflation, that number is probably $5 million.
Yeah. But that was, I thought, like there is no made it moment. It wasn't like, cool, now our household income is $160,000. Now we've made it and we can live the way we want to live.
Because spending adjusts.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. And that goes back to something Ford said. And I remember you and Tamara talking about the $100,000 thing, and it's, and I've said it, to people. And if you would have told us, the three of us, I think that we are as fortunate to be in the position we are in our careers right now, we would have thought we had all kinds of outlandish things. Like, I in my head as an 18-year-old kid, I would have pictured like
sleeping on a bed of cash.
You know what I mean? Like cribs. You know what I mean? Like, my bed should probably have gold headboard or something. You know what I mean? Like things you wouldn't even want. Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like, there's probably like, a basketball court in my family room. You know what I mean? I'd probably have like a garage full of cars, and that's not how life goes.
Man, if I can make $100,000,
right?
I'm going to buy a Ferrari.
Right? I mean, like, think about how much, Brad was talking about it one day, that when he was in high school, he used to shovel manure out of the stables out in Bertrandville where he lived for, I forget what he told me. It was something ridiculous. He might have got like $2 a day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you tell that person that you're going to make this amount of money, and you think, oh, I'm free and clear. But it's because you don't understand as a young person, as a 16 to 28-year-old, like, I'll make it a wide thing.
It's big.
You know what I mean?
Group.
A big group. But from when you're starting, because if you go right into the workforce, you're talking 16 to 20, and you're on your way to a career. If you're talking somebody who wants to be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, a professional, you're not out of school until you're 24. So you're talking like 24 to 28, you're figuring out where you want to be. And you don't know, you don't realize the cost of things and what all these ancillary things, these life decisions, how much a kid costs. When they used to say a kid cost $1 million, they weren't joking, and it's not $1 million anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I was at a function the other day, and I was talking with a guy. I'm going to call him a doctor. He does have a doctorate, but he's like a dentist, right? So, but not like a pure dentist. He deals specifically with like certain pieces of it. I don't know exactly what
it's
it is.
It's a good qualifier.
Like with oral surgeon or whatever. I mean, this is
I'm not
successful guy. And he was talking about how schools have gotten so expensive between colleges and private schools and everything else. And in passing, this guy who's probably mid 40s, says, I mean, I'm still paying off college debt. And his wife chimed in like, well, you have a really good interest rate. Like, that's intentional because of investment strategy. But the reality is, this man who you view as very successful in a very
paying for 20 years,
he's paying for something he went to 20 something years ago.
Yeah.
He still hasn't paid it off.
Right.
Because be careful understand the time. Now, theoretically, I will say, like, if you're going to be a doctor, then you will work for 40 years. And after 25 years, it's probably paid off. And from then on, you're going to do well, and you hope you make it up. But that's everything going perfectly. And that's not someone got a doctorate degree that wasn't really of any value and made you nothing. And now you die with college debt, so be careful, turn your head and look. Because
on Ramsey,
your cell phone, your food, your couch, your bed, your refrigerator, your car, your house, all of them are you don't own any of those until you own them.
I was listening to Ramsey, and there was a guy that made it all the way to not MCATs, but to the boards.
Yep.
To be a doctor all the years, and just couldn't take tests or just could not pass them.
No,
$480,000 in school debt on him, and
not a
now he
doctor.
basically
or not. Yeah.
right now he could be like a med tech. I mean, he had all the like, but you know what I mean? Like that's a very stringent and very strong example. $500,000 in debt, but it's just that is like the plan doesn't always go straight line too.
Well, and you know from your own family at this point with some younger relatives who are in college. College has vastly increased in costs.
Oh yeah.
I mean, this guy that I was talking to was saying like he thinks his oldest is in maybe 6th grade. And he said like if this continued, I think it's possible if my son wanted to be a doctor, he could have $1 million in debt. Like $1 million in school to be able to get you to your job. Just like and he was like, and so I almost say to him like, and he said I almost say to him like, you should find something in the trades where you can get paid right away. Because you don't want to be $1 million in debt.
Yeah.
You know, and like that's.
Well, and there's the other trick. We got to wrap up, but that $1 million in debt is not $1 million, right?
That was what you owed.
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
You're
That
gonna
doesn't
pay
include
back.
interest.
That doesn't include any interest if you pay on time.
Right. I mean, like it's crazy when they actually show those, like when you see a sheet or like an amortization sheet or whatever it is, and it's like, okay, you got a $100,000 loan, and by the time you're done, you pay back $220,000 or whatever it is because they slow it down and you keep paying you know what I mean? So that money doubles.
How much the thing actually costs you.
Yes.
Yeah.
The actual cost of things, like they'll show you a number, but that isn't the number sometimes.
Yeah. How much you borrowed is not how much it cost you.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. All right. We got to wrap it up.
We got to wrap it up.
We don't usually go 40 minutes on an episode.
Sorry, guys.
So. But thanks for joining us today, folks. Hopefully you got something from this, and we hope you come back for another episode.